Demand curves. Demand curves, we're talking about creating an economic model now, visual representation of what's going on between a change in quantity demanded and the change in price. And so you're going to have to graph it. So take a look at the graphic here. At each price point, you'll notice that there's less DVDs in millions per year being bought. Remember, demand is what people are actually buying, not just saying what they want, but actually doing it. So at $20, we got maybe 100 million DVDs being sold. But if the price drops to 18, now we got what? Maybe about 300. And it keeps, as the price drops, more and more DVDs are being bought. All the way to, if it's $10 a DVD, maybe over 1 billion DVDs might be being sold at that price point. So that's where demand curve shows it. At each price point, what is the demand projected to be? Or if it's about history, how much were people actually buying at that price point in the past? So determinants of demand. What all else affects demand besides just price? So we have changes in population or income. There's other determinants, but we'll just focus on these two for now. So on the graphic on the left, my left, is in green, is what happens if there's an increase in population or an increase in the income, the average income of people. Well, in that case, the demand curve will shift to the right. And when it shifts to the right, that means people will buy more of that product, in this case DVDs, at the same price point. So they didn't get cheaper, but more DVDs are being bought just because there's either more people buying DVDs, increase in population, or people just can afford to buy more, so they will, increase in income. The opposite is also true. So if there's a decrease in population, like people are moving out of the city, or maybe hard economic times and people aren't making as much money, they're losing their jobs. So then, without changing the price point, a demand curve will shift to the left, because if there's less people, less DVDs will be bought because there's less people to buy them. If people are suffering financially, they're going to buy less DVDs because they can't afford to buy the same amount of DVDs at that price point. So again, decreases in population or income will cause demand curves to shift to the left. Demand will drop, as opposed to increases will cause demand to increase. Limiting factors. Elasticity. This is something that can throw a little monkey wrench in everything I just said. Elasticity is how easy is it for buyers to stop buying a product. So elastic goods, things with high elasticity, are things that have many alternatives. So if someone is really into, I don't know, shoes, and maybe you have someone who's used to having a lot of wealth, and so they're buying Manolo Blahniks. Don't ask me why I know what those are. But all of a sudden they lose their job, and they lose their money, bad investments, and now they're poor. Well, it's going to be really easy for them to stop buying Manolo Blahniks and just go in to pay less. You know, times are hard. That's elastic, because there are other alternatives. Manolo Blahniks aren't the only shoes for women. There are other shoes that cost less, still look nice, maybe lesser quality, less prestigious, but there's many different alternatives. You can choose to buy something else if you can no longer afford something. That's elastic. Items that are not elastic are things that there aren't many alternatives, like a lot of food baking staples, like eggs. There are alternatives to eggs. You know, there's egg replacement, but not many. So there's very few or no alternatives. If you're going to bake a cake, you need flour. If you're going to make bread, flour has to be available. It just does, as well as a few other ingredients. So those things, as price goes up, or if your purchasing power decreases for a variety of reasons, like you're not able to buy as much because things are more expensive, or you're making less, or maybe cost of living has increased in other ways, that's what makes life hard, because you still got to eat. There's certain things you just have to have, you have to pay for, and there's not a whole lot of other ways to do it. That's inelastic. So that can also be a limiting factor on how demand curves move, or how far to the left or how far to the right they move. These would set up little like invisible walls to how far they can move.